Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that I'm in the second half or even the third quarter of my deep dive into the Lenormand system. The system that was created by the people in Germany under the name of the Game of Hope, and then when they exported it to France, they added the name of Madame Lenormand to increase sales, and it worked, because now we can get Lenormand decks all over the world. Yeah? Side note, when they shipped it off to the United States, they added a different woman's name, Madame Marot, the American version of the French Madame Lenormand. And it worked a little bit, but who won out? The French Lenormand. So, that's the deck we've got. And friends, if you've been with me this lunar cycle, you've already seen this deck, and you know what spread that I'm using. But, I'll be showing you those things in just a moment. But before I do that, let me say thank you. I'd like to say thank you for doing those things that you do, for hitting the thumbs up button, for subscribing. They help all of us to gather here. Do you know that? You help all of us to gather here together in this space. So thank you for doing those things and for commenting below. That also helps all of us, and I love reading comments. I'm truly grateful for all of you who do comment, so thank you. Friends, like I said, I've got a spread already laid out for us for this week. And you know the question is, every week, how can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? So, take a look at the spread and see what you see, and we'll talk about the spread generally before we break it down and start reading it. Are you all ready, friends? Here's this week's spread. Friends, what do you think of this deck? I think it's wonderful. There are some small problems, some challenges with this deck, but generally I really like it. It's called the Cirson Lenormand. It's by Malpertuis. They're the people who created the very famous and popular Tildwick Tarot. And friends, just so you know, I have made my decision. I am going to continue using the Tildwick Tarot in my response videos to the Lenormand video. Do you know that I do that? That every week after I do my large Lenormand spread, I use another deck. Either Terre de Marseille adjacent in antique Italian deck, or a Smith-Waite-based deck, or a Thoth-based deck, to help me get a central message, a distilled message, or just a confirmation message from the Lenormand spread. Because sometimes the second spread I do just says, yeah, you read that right. Sometimes you get a little more information. Sometimes it's more crystallized. Yeah, so I do a second video, and for that second video, I'm going to continue using the Tildwick Tarot because it's interesting. I think I could use the exercise with it, if that makes sense. Yeah, sometimes some decks do ask us to stretch and work a little harder, and the Tildwick does that for me in a beautiful way. So I'm going to continue doing my second video using the Tildwick Tarot and the Mystic Augur Sage, I think that's the correct order, Oracle that I used last week, because I think they go well together. Okay, so that's the plan. But again, back to this Lenormand. It's a wonderful Lenormand. It's a good size. It could be a little smaller, but not so much that I really want to complain about it. It's small enough that I can lay out a decent grand tableau with cards this size. It's fine. The cardstock is okay. It's not phenomenal. Like Patrick Valenza's cardstock in all of his decks, his Lenormand decks included, is phenomenal. Artisan Tarot, their cardstock is phenomenal in a very different way. This cardstock is good. It's a little bit sharp. It feels cheaper than it actually is, I'm sure, but it shuffles well. It feels sturdy. It's a little bit glossy, but not horribly glossy. Yeah, it's a good stock. The images are basically clear. There are a couple of them that I take issue with. For example, two of them I will, no, okay, let's say one of them is in this spread this week. The other one, for example, last week we had the letter card, and the letter, I'm sure there is a letter in there, but it's really hard to see. It looks like a guy walking outside of a city, you know? And the Latin, I don't think we can trust all of the Latin translations, just saying. Most of them look fine to me, and I'm not an expert in Latin, but there are a couple of them that look a little bit sketchy to me, just saying. But generally, it's a really good Lenormand. I like the playing card inserts. They're easy to see. Very good. I like the backgrounds. I like the design of the cards. I like the art on the cards. There are just a couple things, like I said, a couple of the images are not as clear as I really would like them to be, and also I think the Latin might be wrong. Might be wrong in a couple of instances, but I'm not going to pound that into the ground anymore. Okay, so friends, you saw the spread. Just in case you've never seen this spread before, this is what I call a star spread. Other people call it different things. Some people call it a Council of 13. Some people call it, I don't remember the other names, but still, there are several names for this spread. To me, this is a star spread. A diamond spread is another name for it. I like star. And it's read in several ways. Okay, so there are two basic ways to lay out this spread. One is to choose a significator card. For example, if you've got a person across from you and that person is inhabiting a female body, you might choose the woman card. If the topic or the question is about work, you might choose the anchor card. If the subject is about a child or a baby, you might choose the child card, for example. Yeah, so you do choose a significator card, you stick it in the deck, you shuffle the deck, and then you look for the significator card, and then that card and then the 12 after it will be your spread. Yeah, I did not do that. I allowed the deck to choose the significator for us. So I shuffle the deck, I cut the deck, and the first card is the significator, which goes in the center. Yeah, and then we have the cards above that being what's on our minds, what our thoughts are, what our beliefs are. The cards below it are cards that indicate what we're standing on, what is the foundation, what is the basis of what we're thinking about. Yeah? The cards to the left of the significator, that is the recent past. The cards to the right, those are for the future. And then in the, let's see, I'm trying to flip the spread around so I'm in the right position for you. In the upper left-hand corner, I think is here for you. That is the the past influences which move down to this card down here and their outcomes. And then the card over here is for our unconscious motivations, and then the card up here is the outcome for that motivation. Does that make sense? So that's how we're going to start reading the spread. And then we'll later read the 4 cards above the significator, the 4 cards below, the 4 cards on the left, and the 4 cards on the right. We'll read those in groups to see if they confirm what we've been talking about or if they add a layer of information. Does that make sense? So that is how this video will proceed. So what I will do is I will show you the spread once more so you can get it in your head a little bit. And then as I talk about each card, I will put them up here in the corner for you to look at as we talk. Are you all ready, friends? Well, here's this week's spread once more. Friends, I'd like to bring up a topic briefly before we get into reading the spread. And that is what? A friend of mine asked me, or was talking to me actually, and indicated that he thought that I had prepared a script for the entire reading before I start reading with you in these videos. That I've got it all written out, basically, and I'm just telling you what I had thought previously. That's not how I do this. I do prepare. I prepare the cards, I prepare the spread, you saw the picture. And I have some notes about individual cards, but I don't actually read the spread until I'm here with you. Now, this is when the reading begins. I probably have been doing unconscious work on the spread because there is the time gap between when I lay the spread and now. So, my unconscious and my eternal nature have certainly been processing this spread in that period of time, but I have not been consciously pre-reading the spread. Yeah, I'm stumbling through this spread here with you. So we're working on this together. Does that make sense? So, if you know me, you know that I like to get a general sense of the energy, the vibe. I don't like either of those words, but the direction that the spread skews. Does it skew more towards the positive or more towards the negative? And I don't think that making that decision cements the quality or the intention of the reading in any way. Now, a spread, I've read with you spreads that skewed positive, and it ended up feeling still like a rather heavy spread, a heavy reading, And I've also had spreads that seem to skew negative, and in reading them together, I've seen a lot of light and positive information coming from the spread. Okay, so, but still, I like to get a general sense. And so what is the general sense? We start off at the top with the house, which is, let me tell you what the cards were, just in case, because this is Latin, maybe it was difficult for you to see. The card at the top was the house. And then right below it, from left to right, we had the writer, we have the book, and then we have the man card. Yeah? And then below that, the central arm of the spread, we had from left to right, the child, the stork, the fish, the tower, and then the cross. Yeah, tower and cross, well, the cross is fairly negative, right? Below those five, we had from left to right, the tree, the scythe, and the bouquet. And then at the very bottom, we have the bear. Okay? So, as far as positive, negative, right? The house is, for me, positive, neutral. Yeah? The writer is positive. So we've got a positive, neutral, and a positive. The book is neutral, negative, so that cancels out the positive, neutral. Yeah, the man is neutral, so neither here nor there. The child is positive, neutral, so that adds 1 in this area. The stork is positive, neutral. The fish is positive, neutral. The tower is just plain old neutral. The cross is negative, so that cancels out the positive writer. The bouquet is positive, so that adds back on. But then the scythe is negative, so that cancels that one out. Yeah? The tree is positive neutral for me, and then the bear is neutral. So we've got 4, as far as canceling things out and then adding them back in, we've got 4 positive neutral cards. So that seems to me that the spread is skewing positive. And if we look at the playing card inserts, we've got a bunch of hearts and diamonds, right? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, 5 of the 13 are hearts. And then we've got 1, 2, 3 diamonds. So that's 5 plus 3, that's 8 of the 13 are positive playing card inserts, right? Which leaves, 5 in the negative area. So 8 to 5, a very positive spread, right? Even though there are some pretty heavy cards here. Not all of them are out there, but we've got a couple of them here with the scythe and the cross. And the super positive card, the sun, is not here. Still, we've got a very positive message here. And we start off in the center with the significator being a very, very, not super, but very positive card, which is this one, the fish. What are fish? Now, if you've been following along with me, you know my patter around the fish. There are more, at the time of the creation of this deck, just in case you want to see, the backs of the decks look like this. The backs of the deck look like this, I should say. And we see here is a pelican feeding its young. It's a very medieval Christian symbol for Christ. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. The backs are very symbolic of the Christ feeding the children with his own blood, which was the idea behind the pelican, who looks like it bites its own chest to feed its young. Now, people thought they were feeding their children their blood, like Christ. Okay, so anyways, next, going back to what's still up here, the fish. Fish at the time of the creation of this deck are perhaps easy cash money. Yeah, if we think of pre-industrial revolution, we have people who farm, and that takes a long time, right? It could take about a year for the harvest to happen, and then you have to wait another year for the next harvest, right? You think of maybe some craftspeople who do things to make stuff, but before we had machinery, that doing of things and making of stuff took quite a while. Fishers, what do? Now remember, this is before overfishing, before pollution of the oceans, before global warming. Fishermen, mostly men, would go out on their boats. They would drop their net, they would pick up their net, they would pick up their nets, and they would have a bunch of fish to sell, right? Fairly easy, quick money. Dangers, yes, there are dangers to fishing, of course, but compared to the amount of time for farming or even some of the crafts, fishing is pretty immediate, right? So this is a card of cash money, of abundance, of resources. Fish also flow through the water, so it could be a card of emotions as well. We have a king here, so it could be a business person or an entrepreneur, an employer. When we think of employer here, it's not the employer of like the immediate supervisor, which could be the bear, but rather the CEO kind of employer, the top of the company, the head of the food chain in the business. Yeah? So we got these fish. Wonderful thing. So what is the spread about? The spread, I think, is about our abundance, about our resources. So how can we live our lives more intentionally in this coming week? We want to pay attention to our resources. We want to pay attention to our cash. We want to allow our feeling of abundance. Yeah? Our sense of abundance really depends more upon us than the amount of money we have in the bank. Can we all be on board with that? Now, yes, there is depending on where we live, there is a minimal amount of money that we need to have in order to survive. And if you're watching this video on an electronic device, you know that that device, if you want to continue watching videos like this, costs money, and we need to have the money to pay for that, for the repairs for that. If you probably are watching this, you are watching probably in a city or near a city or somewhere where you have to pay for housing in one way or another, buying a house or renting an apartment or something in that range of experience. You're probably not living out in the middle of the woods or in the middle of the prairie on your own, in a house that you built with your own hands and farming your own food and taking care of your own resources and not depending on electricity from a utility grid or any of that. You're probably not that person. You probably need the money, the resources to take care of most of those things. And still, it depends on us. Yeah? If the base needs are met, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if the base needs are met, we could still either feel abundant or deprived. Some of the people who have a lot of money, depending relative to us, might still feel like they're scrambling and scrounging for money. They might not feel satisfied in their abundance. They might not feel abundant. They might feel like they are constantly having to compete. Whereas somebody who has their base needs met and lives in a very small, perhaps, apartment in a large city that is surrounded by people who have a lot more money than them, they might still feel the blessings of their abundance. It all depends on these things, right? Our brains and our hearts, and maybe our guts. It depends on our minds. Our abundance is our attitude towards what we have most of the time. Sometimes it's not. Most of the time it is. So how do we live our lives more intentionally? Well, the first suggestion, the first bit of information we got is to acknowledge our abundance. Does that make sense? So what's on our minds? Now, what's up here in this headspace? We start off with the house. Yeah, the house. What is a house? We were just talking about living spaces and domiciles, right? The house is the place we live. It's the place where we feel secure, safe. Hopefully. If you don't feel safe in your house, we need to find you help. If you don't know how to find help yourself, you can reach out to me. I will not help. I'm not saying I will not help you. I'm saying that I may not be able to help you directly because I'm here in South Korea and you probably are not. But I can maybe guide you in a direction to find help if you need it. However, hopefully, we all feel secure in our houses, in our homes. We feel safe. This is where we go to find our protection, right? From the elements, bad weather, for example, from other people, from interference from the outside, right? So the house card indicates home, again, our actual residence, but also our feeling of home, the direct environment that we dwell in, whether it's an apartment or it's a tent or it's a yurt or it's a house or it's a mansion or it's a shelter of some sort. That is our home. Our house, yeah? It's also our feeling of privacy, our private space. It could be real estate or inheritance sometimes. I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I don't think that we're all thinking about the inheritance we're going to be getting. But it could be that. It could also be our base ground, our home ground, where we feel grounded and secure and safe and stable. Yeah? It could be successful endeavors. We've got another king here. So this king is the home man. Yeah, the house husband, the kind older father figure kind of man, as opposed to the businessman of the fish. This is the kind, gentle family man, maybe a grandfather or like I said, a house husband. A man of the heart, right? So if you got someone in your life like that, that could be a person that might be related to your feeling of abundance and maybe where your mind is. But if not, then we're thinking about, I think, our security, our stability, our feeling of stability. Not the stability of the anchor like our job stability, but our broader sense of just groundedness and stability and security in our space. We might also be feeling like we need to protect ourselves a little bit from the outside environment, which might be not as beneficial as one might think. So for our abundance, I think we want to have on our mind that we are stable, we are secure, we do have our private space, not necessarily to hide from, but rather to feel secure in. Yeah? And the card right beneath that the house card was this card, the book, right? And the book is what? At the time of the printing of this deck, it was the place where secrets could be kept. Think of maybe your journal. Private thoughts can be written in a book. But a book is also a way, even at the time of the creation of this deck, for one person to share information with a broad audience. So it's also, in addition to secrets and private information, it's also information that is spread around from one person to others. So it's knowledge, right? It's education a little bit. It's the teaching, not the institution of education, but the action of education and learning and studying. So, traditionally, the book card is the card for secrets. And it's nice to have a book card where you can see one side has the spine and the other side has the open pages, so you can determine which side the secrets are not going to be revealed and what side the secrets are going to be revealed. Yeah, the side with the pages that can be opened would be where the secrets can be discovered. The side with the binding is the side where secrets are not going to be discovered, at least not anytime soon, right? Unfortunately, this card, we don't see that. We just see a face-open book, right? And we also want to remember that at the time of the printing of this deck, literacy in the world was not incredibly high. So even if books were printed, the recipients of the knowledge were a smaller group than they would be today. Yes? So we still have that. Secrets, what is hidden that could be revealed. Loved seeing these monks here in front of what looks like a choir book. Yeah, they're maybe singing the hours, chanting the hours. If you don't know what that means, ask me in the description box below. I will tell you. But this looks like a prayer service, a prayer action, I should say, rather than a service. And again, we also have the idea of knowledge in this card. Study, learning. Something that could be closed. And just because this card looks like it is a holy action, I'm not going to read the book card in terms of holy recitation of the hours. Because this is not tarot, this is Lenormand. We just read the book. So what does that mean for us, for the house? What's on our minds is our feeling our security, our stability, our feeling safe within our private spaces is, we want to know that. We want to not only feel, but know that we are secure, we're stable, we have a good base ground for our lives right now in this coming week. So that seems to be where our minds are set. Our minds are directed towards the knowledge of our security, stability, privacy, everything is okay. And that's how we'll probably feel more secure in our abundance with the fish card, right? So what are we standing on? What's below us? What's below us, we start off with this scythe. Yeah? The scythe. It's a sharp implement, so it can do damage, which is where we get the negative idea of the scythe. But it's also an implement of harvesting. And because this card is right beneath the fish and what we're standing on, I think this is a card of harvesting. Yeah? Instead of cutting things off and painful sacrifices and separation, I think we are looking at harvesting our abundance, gathering the stuff we want, and having gathered the stuff that we want, because this is what we're standing on, right? This is our foundation. We have harvested our abundance. We have gathered it together. And I love this card here. We see the wheat. It looks like wheat to me. Maybe it could be barley or something else, but it looks like wheat. The person here, a male person, looking at the clothes, this man is harvesting wheat. So yeah, it just is. That's a good reminder that this scythe can be beneficial for us right now. And what are we harvesting? Or what is the result of our harvesting? Is this card the bear? Now, I'm sorry, this looks a little bit more like an opossum to me than a bear, but this is the bear card. And what is a bear? The bear is the mammal at the top of the food chain in many of the places that bears reside, right? The bears don't have many predators. They're strong. They protect their cubs. They eat a very diverse diet. Now, they're not merely carnivores. They do eat fish, but they're not merely carnivores. They also eat berries and fruit and leaves and twigs and stuff to fatten themselves up. Why? Because they also hibernate. They're strong, but they also sleep long enough, and they take care of themselves, and they take care of their families, and they have a secure place to sleep. Remember, they have a nice home for their winters. Generally, they find that for themselves, right? So, what is the bear in Lenormand? It is strength. It's also being supportive. It could be a cuddle bear, someone that we feel comfortable snuggling up with. Or being that person for somebody else, the one who is the snuggle bear. It could be a supervisor. Yeah, a boss, a direct overseeing boss, your direct supervisor. It could be someone who's calm with inner strength, or that calmness and inner strength for ourselves. It could also be an older woman in some traditions. Yeah, a mother figure, a matriarch, a powerful woman. I don't think that's, if you've got someone like that in your life, maybe that person is your foundation, right? So, it could be our moms, maybe our grandmoms, maybe. But what I think here is we harvest, and in our harvesting with the scythe, we feel our inner strength. We feel our being able to be in touch with our inner calm. Because remember, we had that sense of groundedness with the house card above. So we're standing on a foundation of our inner calm, our strength, our our calm. Yeah, those are the only words that are coming to my mind right now. But yes, so we harvest our abundance We sort out the stuff that we want. The sifting of the grain, right? We sort out the stuff that we want, and we feel calm. We feel strong. And that's what we're standing on. And that's what gives us the ability to appreciate the abundance that we have. That might be the title of the video suddenly, yeah? Appreciate the abundance that we have. That seemed to be the point of this spread. Now let's look at the past, right? We start on the left with the child. There's the child up here, the child. Love this child card. Love the baby in the cradle underneath the tree. And we'll see the tree later on in this video because the tree does come up. But we don't read the tree in this card, we just read the baby. And what is a baby? A baby, a child, is a new human, right? A human that is growing. It could actually be a baby. If you've got a baby in your life who was recently born, then read that. But I think for the rest of us, the baby is the new person, right? So it could be our feeling of being a freshman, of a beginner, the newbie on the block, right? That new person. Or maybe somebody like that has entered our lives. That's possible. But it's also the card of new beginnings. And about a month ago, maybe a little more than a month, we had a spread that was focused on a new beginning for us, right? So, beginnings, small things developing. And the spread right after that was a spread focused on the stork, which was the transformation from the new thing, right? So now we've got the child card again in the past spot. New beginning, something that has begun, that is developing slowly. A little faster than a tree, perhaps, but is developing slowly. Growth. Which leads us, right. See, I told you I read this real time, which leads us right to this card, the stork, right? So that new thing, we're coming out of a past of this new thing, which brings us to the stork. And what is a stork? The stork is beautiful, beautiful image here of the stork. We see the stork there among a bunch of frogs. I'm not really sure why the frogs are there. I need to do a little bit more research, I guess. But it's a pond full of frogs. And it looks like the stork is eating, but maybe not eating the frogs. What is a stork? A stork is a large bird. It migrates. It goes from one place to another, but then it returns. And so the stork builds a large nest, a large house. The house card is on our thoughts, right? A large house, just like the bear has its cave that's secure, the stork has a large nest in which it is secure and will return to it after it's migrated away and come back. Traditionally, the stork is in Europe and in the Americas, at least North America, the bird that is a symbol of bringing babies to families. Right? It's not just a US-American invention, it's also a European invention as well. And it exists in other cultures too. It exists in some African cultures, it exists in some cultures in South America, traditionally, the stork being, or a stork-like bird bringing the babies, yeah? So, that's what we've got with the stork. And traditionally, the stork card is something of a positive change. Yeah? It's a movement as well, a transition to something good, something better. It's not just the new thing that's growing, it's the change of life. Just like a baby will change your life when it enters your life, right? And things are developing. Maybe not always as they are expected, but things are developing. We do have a queen here, a queen of hearts, to match the king of hearts in the house at the very top of the spread, right? The queen of hearts is a gentle woman, or a gentle person in a female body, right? Home-loving woman, a nurse maybe, a caregiver, a woman of the heart and the woman of caring. Just like the king above was the man of the heart and the man of caring, right? So what I see here is we go from the new thing, which came into our lives and started developing. It has created some kind of a transformation for us in the recent past. Yeah, which apparently has led to our current feeling of abundance. And what are we moving towards? Well, the first card we see in the near future is the Tower. Yeah? And the Tower. What is this Tower? The Tower is something that we put so that in our territory, let's say, it could be attached to a castle, but it could be out in the middle of nowhere. It's a structure that we put in our territory so that we can go up and either get a wide perspective of where we are, so we can see what's going on, see if there's anybody coming, enemies perhaps even. The Tower is also a place where we lock people away, right, away from society. The Tower is also a place of defense where we see the enemies coming from a distance and then we go up to the Tower and we use the Tower to defend ourselves, right? So the Tower is all of those things. And I love this Tower here being so very large, so very high, and so very high above all the rest of the buildings there, right? So traditionally, what is the Tower? The Tower is solitude. Well, I don't know why I said it like that. The Tower is solitude. It is taking a step away from the madding crowd, yeah? But it's also an institution. Yeah, towers are symbols of institutions, of governments, of companies now, of college sometimes. Yeah, there's the bell tower to a church. So church institutions. There are bell towers in universities. So a university. It's being above, high, and almost unattainable sometimes. Yeah, it could be a patriarch for some people. I don't see that for our reading. So, our feeling of abundance is leading us in the direction of what? I think so above us, we've got the idea of feeling safe, secure, and wanting the knowledge of that, right? And we're standing on our having the strength of our inner strength and our harvesting of our abundance. So we're coming through a transition into our abundance. And we're moving up to get a broader perspective, I think. That we want to go up and take a wide view. We want to not necessarily step back, but step up. So we really get a good perspective of what's going on around us. Yeah? Why? Because why? Okay, so this cross card here is problematic. What is a cross? The cross, you can see the blood dripping down on this cross, right? You see the crucifix, we see the crucified Jesus Christ on this cross in this card. The cross at the time of the production of this deck, this was produced in a society that was very highly Christian still, right? And the symbol of the cross is a symbol of the death and resurrection of Christ. It's the symbol of the burden of Christ, who had to carry this large wooden instrument of death through the city to the place where he was crucified. Right? So there are the ideas of burden, of suffering, of sacrifice, of death, but also of resurrection. And the cross can also be read directionally. Now, because of the placement of the cross in this spread, the only direction we have is the direction that was to the left. Right? To the left. And the cards to the left are read as things that are stopped, that are ended. Something a little bit like the coffin card, but it's not. It's the cross. It's the end post, the death of something. Again, not exactly the coffin. But it still can be the ending of something. And so my brain is having a little bit of trouble right now. Are we moving into the ending of our solitude? The ending of needing this broad perspective. I think so. I think that's what we're talking about here. Because yes, the cross it could be the burden of solitude, it could be the burden of taking a step back and the burden of looking around, but I don't think so. I think maybe we've been in a time of not COVID self-isolation, but a little bit of isolation these days. And that isolation could have been a burden, and we're moving into a time when that needs to stop. Does that make sense? Let's see. Let's read this a little bit more in other ways. And also remember, the next spread this week will clarify this, right? So it might point towards more isolation, and because the cross can also be a spiritual thing, right? We could go up the tower and see widely and have a spiritual realization. I remember one time, not a tower, but a mountain. I went up to the top of this mountain, and it's a long story. If you want to hear that story again, let me know in the comments below. But I went to the top of this mountain, and I felt very insecure, very unsteady on the rocks, and it had been a very cloudy day, and then suddenly, bam! The clouds parted, the sun shone through, and it was one of those rare times when you could actually see the beams of light shooting out of the sun. It was a very powerful moment for me, and a very spiritual moment for me. So it could be the spirituality of seeing broadly, but I don't think so. I think it's the ending of our isolation and our solitude, maybe. Maybe. So let's read this a little bit more. Okay, so we have our past influences and their results, right? So the past influences are what? They are this rider card up here, yes? The rider. What is a rider? The rider is the person who rides in with messages. At the time of this deck's creation. That's what it was pointing towards. And we see here, very interesting, the name is Equus, which means horse, which is okay. Would have been nice if it were a rider, like a chevalier or something, but it's horse. But this is the rider card, yeah? And do you see the window in the wall back there where the two people are looking out? It looks like one of them is reaching out saying hi. Like, hey, is that message for me? Maybe. I don't know. The very interesting arch over here. It's a very interesting graphic. Kind of looks like a crusader. Doesn't the person on the horse look like a crusader to you? But what is the rider? The rider is, again, a message, something that comes into our lives fairly suddenly. It could be the messages that they bring. It could be movement as well, the movement of the rider forward. Things are going smoothly. Some people point to the rider as being a person, like a youthful person, an athletic person. Some people point to the rider as being a gay man. So if you've got somebody like that in your life, you goody for you. A dynamic person, an outgoing one. But I don't see people here. What I see is, because remember, we came from the child and the stork, that transformation. So that movement, the sudden, the springing up in our lives of something. Something has popped up for us in the recent past. Something has appeared that we didn't expect. And it might have been in written messages. But again, this is not the letter card, right? Which would be really a written message. It could be a verbally transmitted message as well. So something, news, but maybe something else has popped up into our lives, and that has brought us to the outcome of this card being the tree. I love the tree card. In this deck and in all decks, I love the tree card. This is a flowering tree, right? Which is nice. It reminds us of, I think, the healthfulness of the tree card. Now, what is a tree? It's a kind of vegetation that grows slowly. It has deep roots and high branches. It provides shade. It provides oxygen. It provides health. Sometimes it provides food. Right? So what is the tree card in Lenormand? Well, this card could be life. It could be our roots. It could be traditions. Now, remember the roots of the tree going deep, our ancestry, our traditions. It could be an outdoor environment as well. That's where trees are found, right? In the outdoor environment. I don't think we've moved outside. I don't think that's what we're talking about, although it can be that. But it could also be our well-being and our health. Maybe something has sprung up in our lives that has given us a stronger sense of our well-being and our health. Yeah? And maybe and or. Yeah? It could be that and or, but and that child thing which led to a transformation in our lives and has maybe with the writer sprung up kind of quickly, is leading to a long, slow, enduring growth and evolution. Like a tree grows and evolves. Yeah? Yeah, that's what I see. That's what I see in this spread. So, the thing that came into our lives quickly in the recent past moves into a slow, steady, healthful growth that provides well-being for us, or is an indication of our well-being. And what kind of well-being? Remember, the significance card of this spread is the fish, our abundance. So, our abundance is increasing in a very healthful way, in a way of well-being. Yes? Now, the unconscious influences start with this flower card, bouquet card, in the lower right, left-hand side. Wait a second. It's in the lower left, okay, so maybe I was pointing at things incorrectly. So the rider was up here, and it moved to the tree down here, right? So the bouquet is here, the unconscious motivations, which lead to the results up here. Okay, so I got that all worked out. So there it is. That's the bouquet. Doesn't look like a bouquet to me. Looks like a bunch of flowers growing in the ground, but the card number is the bouquet card, which means not flowers growing in the ground, rather, but flowers that have been gathered to give to somebody, particularly. It could be a bouquet that we gather for ourselves and place in our homes, right? People do that too, to decorate and to add some beauty and happiness to their homes, gather flowers and place them there. But we also give them to people as gifts, right? As a gift to say thank you, to say, I think you're beautiful, to give happiness. Now, there have been studies that when people receive flowers, they smile. Yeah, it's a gift of happiness. Even if we have perhaps negative feelings about the cutting of flowers and shortening their lives, still, most of us, according to this study, will smile when we receive flowers. So it's a welcome gift. It's a happy gift. It's a gift of beauty. It's a gift of, and it's an artistic arrangement. Yeah, whether the artistry is good or not, we arrange the flowers to present, right, in a beautiful fashion. So there's artistry there too. So what does this card mean? It could be good fortune, happiness, pleasure. It could be charm, yeah, and refinement. It could be creativity, yeah, remember the artistic quality and beauty. It could be an invitation. Sometimes we give flowers as we give an invitation to do something, right? At the time of the creation of this deck, flowers were often given to ladies to get entree into their private space. Okay, don't go where I think you might have gone, into their private spaces being their houses, not inside of their clothes. Yeah, into their private spaces being their houses, their sitting rooms, right, where they would be allowed to, with a chaperone, entertain members of the opposite sex. Right, that was already a thing, I think, at the time of the creation of this deck. At the sitting room, the invitation, the caller who would come, present a gift and get an invitation, entree. So invitations. These invitations could be invitations to something like a grand ball. It could be an invitation to a job interview. It could be an invitation to hang out with your friends. It could be an invitation on a date. Anything like that. So, unconscious motivations are, I think, perhaps not invitations. Perhaps our motivations are for good fortune, for happiness and pleasure, for beauty. Yeah? And I think we're coming out of Taurus season. Maybe? Are we? Okay. No, we have come out of Taurus season. Yes. So maybe that's part of it. Yeah, we've come out of this season of beauty and charm and refinement and beauty, right? The sensual pleasures. Maybe that's what the unconscious motivation is here. And that leads us up to the resulting man card. What is the man? Well, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binaries alike, we're reading this spread through me for us. Through me for us. And I identify with... Now, the man card and the woman card are not necessarily gendered, but sexed. And not sexed like that ways, yeah, not that way, but they are a sex, they are in a body. And no, we do not have an intersex card in this spread, but it's the not the gender, but the actual physical structure of the body, I believe, for these decks. And so I am in a male body. Would I consider myself masculine? Probably. I have feminine in here too. We all do. We have all the gender spectrum within each of us, I believe. And so this card is indicating the reader of the spread and the person that the spread is being read for. God, that came out really poorly. This card here represents all of us because I'm reading through me for us. So, our man, what does that mean? It means us. Remember, last week we had us here in the center. We were the significator. We were the center of the spread. It was all about us, right? And so our unconscious motivations with the flower lead to our sense of self, our sense of being who we are, our active natures as well. Maybe our leadership, which might strengthen the idea of the Tower card and the Cross card together being an end of solitude. Perhaps. We'll see. So, friends, I think that's generally what this spread is saying. Yeah? And we're going to read this spread in a different way. Yeah? We're going to read the 4 groupings of cards, which means that above the significator card, there were 4 cards, right? 3 and then 1 above them. And then to the left of the significator card, there were 3 and then 1 to the left of that, right? We're going to read the groupings of 4 cards around the significator to see if we get confirmation of what we've seen already or more information. Let's see how this goes. So, friends, take a look at the spread once more and see what you see. Here it is. So, friends, let's start off with what's on our minds again. Let's look at these. Where am I going to put them? I'm going to put them over here. Yes, these 4 cards. Yeah, we start off with the house at the top and then the 3 cards below. So again, we start off with our sense of home and security and our grounded. We're thinking about our grounding and our feeling of stability, security, right? Maybe even our privacy. I don't think a defensive kind of privacy, but just our feeling like we have our safe space. Not because we're afraid of attack, but rather just because that's what makes us feel secure, right? We have our safe space, we have our private space, and so people are not going to bother that, and we're okay. And that leads to these 3 cards, right? The writer, the book, and the man. So, because our mind and our maybe even our hearts are directed towards our feeling grounded and our stability and feeling like we've got a good, secure, private space, maybe good boundaries, porous but good boundaries, so that when this new thing comes up with the writer, now the new thing popping up, the message, that maybe tells us some information with the book, we're okay. Yeah, we are secure in our usness with the man card. Yeah, because our minds are not scattered, we're not defensive, we're not feeling problems. We're resting in our abundance and our feeling of abundance. When this new thing comes in with secrets maybe, or maybe just information, we're okay. We're not going to get knocked off our horse. Where's the horse? It's up there. We won't get knocked off of that horse that we're on. Maybe we're the rider too. Now, the information will not knock us off. That's great. And let's look at what's below us now. Now, what are we resting on? We're resting on these 4 cards, right? We got the bouquet, the scythe, the tree, and the bear. So these 3 cards above are leading us towards our inner strength and our calm. In our feeling of abundance, again being that center. So what is it? Well, I don't know, maybe if we're blessed, maybe we will get some invitations or an invitation. But if not, still, our sense of beauty and the good fortune in our lives and the charm of living the life that we're living and the creativity that we can experience in our life leads to a harvesting, and I'm going to keep that harvesting idea here with the scythe, a harvesting of our well-being. Yeah? Of our well-being with the tree, our feeling of health and being rooted. Yeah? And that leads us right down to the bear, which is our inner strength. That's where we get our inner strength. That's the foundation that we're standing on. And we probably want to take care of that a little bit. We want to preserve that. And over here on the left, what are we coming from? We're coming from the rider at the top, the rider, the stork, and the bouquet. And that comes from the child. Okay, so we move from outside in from the past, right? So we start with the child. And the child is the new beginnings, right? The thing that came into our lives a while back, and it's been growing. And that leads us to this new thing, maybe movement forward with the writer, maybe movement forward, maybe things are going smoothly with this new thing in our lives, which is part of the transformation, movement forward, the positive changes of the stork, which give us the bouquet of the good fortune and beauty and creativity of our lives. Yeah? So this child thing in the past has been leading us towards this feeling of abundance, because the new thing that came in with the writer creates this positive change and movement forward, and things developing, maybe not as expected, but still developing into good fortune and beauty with the bouquet card, right? And then over here, what are we moving into? We start off with the man, the tower, and the tree, moving into the cross. So we're moving into us, we're moving into ourselves, maybe we're moving into a fuller sense of self and maybe our leadership. That maybe our leadership is elevating us in some way with the tower. Yeah, maybe we are elevating. Maybe we are rising up. And it's not a shot to the top like maybe a shooting star or the moon rising, but with the tree beneath it, it's a slow, steady growth up with the tower. But because it's slow and steady, it's got roots, it's got foundation, it's growing in a very stable way. And that leads us to the cross, which may in this case be our own, spiritually being our own eternal nature's self-selected destiny for ourselves. Because the cross is also destiny, right? It's also got a spiritual meaning to it. Now we're moving in the direction of the course of intention that we have set out for ourselves. And if we feel our abundance, we are open to the power of intention. Does that make sense? So we're moving in the direction of our destiny/intention, which is spiritually empowered. Yes? Because we empower ourselves. The internal nature that is us empowers us. So this week's spread is all about our feeling our own abundance. Yeah, we want to acknowledge and appreciate the abundance that we have in this coming week. And it's that opening up to the abundance that we already have, that we are, I don't want to say resting in, but that we exist within, which also opens us up to the powerful flow of intention, which moves us in the direction of the futures that we have selected for ourselves, the experiences that we've decided that we want to have, the jobs we want to work at, the relationships we want to have, the vacations we want to go on, the adventures we want to ride out on, the creative projects we want to work on. All of that is part of our powerful current of intention. And if we're open in and we're resting in, or we are experiencing the abundance and the resources that are available to us, then we are also open to the power that moves us in the direction of our intention, which is also another way of saying it, we're moving in the direction of our destiny. We're moving in the direction of our fate in the most positive sense of the words. Does that make sense? And we're resting on the power of self with the bear, right? As we've harvested so much, and so much is growing in our lives. And we give attention to the security that we can feel if we allow ourselves to feel it. Now, we can always do the opposite. We can always turn our attention towards our insecurities and help them to grow, and then this whole spread crumbles. But we have the potential here to inhabit our abundance. Right? Does that make sense? And so this is a positive spread. It's a spread that we could choose to break apart if we want to, but it's available to us in this coming week. And so I hope we all do this. We all take the, I think, advice of this spread and experience and inhabit our abundance. And that will move us in the direction of the positive instead of the cross, which could also flip and become the burden, the suffering. We could move into burden and suffering, or we could move into our destiny and our spiritually chosen path. And when I say spiritually chosen path, I mean the path that we, as the eternal natures, the eternal beings that we are, having these human experiences, we have chosen the direction we want to go in. And we can always choose with these ego-centered brains to resist and break that apart. But we have a path that we have self-selected. And we can open to that this week, if we're willing to inhabit our abundance. Does that make sense? So friends, in just a moment, just in case you want a private reading from me, it could be with Lenormand, it could be with Tarot, it could be with anything. Yeah? The QR code for my online tarot shop will appear right before your eyes. You can scan the QR code, or my web address is also there. Enter the web address into your computer, hop on over to my shop, see what I have to offer, and order a reading for yourself or for a friend or somebody else. I'm here for you. And friends, thank you. Thank you for walking this spread with me. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.